Cheshvan, and we are in the still at the beginning of the fifth parak of Maseches Pesachim. We are at the bottom of Daf Nun Chesam Beis. Today's Daf is Nun Tes Amud Aleph, but beginning 2 lines on the bottom. At the bottom of Nun Chesam Beis, the Gemara tells us as follows: Tana Rabbanan, we have a brayso that teaches us Tamid Kodim LePesach, that the Korban Tamid happens before the. Hold on 1 second. Let's just send the link here. There we go. Okay, Tamid Kodim LePesach, that you shech the Korban Tamid before the Korban Pesach, but that's not all. Pesach Kodim LeKdaris, but you shech the Korban Pesach and then you bring the Kdaris in the afternoon. And Kdaris Kedemus Leneris, and the Kdaris comes before the Hadlakas Neris. Meaning, so it's true that the last Korban that you bring on a regular day is going to be Korban HaTavit. But on Erev Pesach, you're going to shech the Korban Pesach, but then there's still Kdaris and Neris, which is something that one does every day in the Beis HaMikdash. Says Rashi, the Kdaris shall bein harabayim v'kulu yalav daima. We're going to learn all the reasons for this. This is the regular Kdaris for every day. Says the Gemara, top of Nun Tes Amud Aleph. Says the Gemara as follows: Kdaris Kedemus Leneros. Turning over the page. Yuchar davar shenemar by ba'ariv u'ba'erev u'bein harabayim b'davar sheloi nemar ba'erev ela bein harabayim bilvad. The rule is as follows, says the Gemara, that we are going to push off, meaning delay, postpone, push later, the thing that says ba'erev and bein harabayim, for something that does not say ba'erev, but it only says bein harabayim, meaning the Korban Pesach says that you have to shech the bein harabayim, and with regards to the Kdaris and the Neris, it says both the words bein harabayim and ba'erev, bein harabayim in the afternoon, ba'erev in the evening. So the thing that says ba'erev is going to be later. Says the Gemara, okay, if this is true, ihachi Kdaris v'Neris nami nikdemu lePesach. If this is true, then the Neris and the Kdaris should also come before the Korban Pesach. Yuchar davar shenemar ba'erev u'bein harabayim ledavar sheloi nemar by ela bein harabayim bilvad. Because following that rule, we should delay the thing that says ba'erev and bein harabayim for the sake of something that says, for the sake of something that the pasuk describes as both being ba'erev, for the sake of something that the Torah says only bein harabayim, meaning bein harabayim is said about Ktaris and about Neris as well. Says Rashi over here, Mishum hai time gufe yuchar dava. The Ktaris v'Neris chad bein harabayim ksiv. V'alos aronis haneris bein harabayim yakdirena. Bein harabayim atar vayikai. If this is true, says the Gemara, as Rashi explains, bein harabayim is said about the Ktaris, and about the Neris. Says the Gemara Shani Hasam, that's different. Because the Torah has explicitly excluded it. Torah has explicitly excluded this, meaning, as Rashi says, Gabe Neros, with regards to the Neros, and we'll see how this rolls out in a moment. Titania, Bryce says as follows: Me'erev ad boker, you're going to have the Neros that are going to burn, Me'erev ad boker, Tein li midasa, Shetehei dolekes Me'erev ad boker. You have to make sure that it has enough oil to be able to burn Me'erev ad boker from the evening until the morning. Davar acher, and another limud within this, Ein lecha avodah sheksher Me'erev ad boker ela zu bilvad. There is nothing else in the Beis HaMikdash that is kosher, meaning that the avodah is to do it Me'erev ad boker, that you have to have something happening throughout the night, Me'erev ad boker ela zu bilvad, except for the Neris. My time, what is the rationale? What's the reason for this? Amar Kro, the pasuk says, "Ya'aroich osai aron nevanav me'erev ad boker." It needs to be set up, prepared to be able to burn from evening until morning. Osai me'erev ad boker. This one has to be me'erev ad boker. Ve'ein davar acher me'erev ad boker. This needs to be from evening until morning, and there's nothing else that is from evening until morning. Says the Gemara, "Ve'itkish k'taris l'neris." So that's talking about the neris. What does this have to do with the k'taris, with the incense that's burned in the Beis HaMikdash? So itkish k'taris l'neris, that there is a juxtaposition, that there is a relationship between k'taris and neris. Ve'tanya, and the Brisa taught us ki kusha, exactly like the question that we just asked. We have a Brisa that not only doesn't answer this question, but actually supports the question. What is the brisa? V'tanya ki kushtan, Tamid kodim l'kteris, that the korban tamid has to be before the kteris, and kteris kodim l'kedemis the neris, and the kteris has to be before the neris. V'neris kodemis the pesach, and the neris have to be before the korban pesach. What? That is a totally different order than the brisa that we just said, because it would seem to be exactly like we said, that with regards to Neris and Kedaris, it says it also says, but it also says Ben Harabayim, and therefore it should be before Korban Pesach. Yuchar Davar Shenemar Bar, so the Gemara answers, Yuchar Davar Shenemar by Be'erev U Ben Harabayim, but Davar Shenemar by Ella Ben Harabayim Bilvad. Says the Gemara, like we had anticipated at the beginning of the Amud, that there is a difference between something that says both Be'erev and Ben Harabayim versus something that only says Ben Harabayim. The Korban Pesach only says Ben Harabayim, and the and while it's true that Ben Harabayim is used for both Kedaris and Neros, it also says Ba'erev. Says the Gemara B'Hakasiv Osai, but Yarech Osai Me'erev Abakir. It sounds like nothing can be after the Neros are lit. So how can you have Kedaris that is offered after the Neros? Says the Gemara, nah. Ha Osim Mibayale leMeute Avedish Bifnim. That word Osai, Yarech Osai, is telling you that nothing else can be done in the inner part of the Beis Hamikdash after the Neros. It says Umay Niu, and what is that? Ktaris. That means Ktaris. That nothing can be done after the Neros means Ktaris. You would have thought to say that when the pasuk says Va'alos Aaron is Haneres Ben Arbaim Yaktiren, that when Aaron and his when Aaron kindles the Neres Ben Harabayim in the evening, Yaktirena, he will burn it. It sounds like you should light the Neres at the beginning. Then you should offer the Kedaris. Mir Rachmana, the Torah came to say, Osai, no, Yarech Osai, that you should do it, and not that you should offer the Kedaris at that point in time as well. Meaning that the order needs to be, Rashi tells us, it's not coming to exclude the Korban Pesach. That goes outside the Kodesh section of the Beis Hamikdash. It's coming to tell you that the neros have to be lit, and that is the last thing that you do inside of the Heichal, inside of the Kodesh. But stuff going on outside is totally fine. And this is a different order than what we have previously described. Says the Gemara, I say neros can be lit, nothing else can be lit thereafter. So we say, then why does the Torah say that it needs to be burnt? Bein Harabayim, that the Kedaris needs to be burnt Bein Harabayim. So we say, Hachi Kamar Rachmana. This is what the Torah is telling you. Be'iden de madlekas neros, at the time that you are lighting the neros on the menorah, the miktarah Kedaris, the incense should already be burning. So the order is going to be, after the Korban Tamid, you're going to start lighting the Kedaris, and then you're going to light the neros, and then you're going to go out and offer the Korban Pesach. Says the Gemara, okay, two ways now of seeing the order of Pesach, Kedaris, and Neros and Tamid. Says the Gemara, Tana Rabbanan, we have a brisa that says as follows: we have nothing that is before the Korban Tamid in the morning, except for the Kedaris of the morning. Shenemar ba boker, because the pasuk says about the Kedaris, ba boker, it has to be in the morning. In the morning. Twice the pasuk says. Yuktam Kedaris davar. Yeah, Yuktam Kedaris, the incense has to be before. Davar shenemar ba boker, because that's the thing that says ba boker, in the morning. Dirshu, as the pasuk says, v'hiktir alav Aaron Kedaris samim ba boker, that he should offer on it Kedaris in the morning. Meaning, every morning needs to not just baboker in the morning, but in the first thing in the morning, baboker. That's the additional language of the pasuk. So, ledavar shaloi ne'amar bay ela boker echad. And with regards to the Korban Tamid, it only says boker once. and there's nothing that is going to go after the Tamid Shel Ben Harabayim, Elakdaris, Veneris, Upesach. And there is nothing that goes after the Karban Tamid Shel Ben Harabayim, aside from three things: Taurus, Neris, and Pesach. And then there's one other category here: Umechusar Kippurim be'erev haPesach. Mechusar Kippurim on erev Pesach is somebody that Mechusar Kippurim is somebody that needs to bring a karban in order to be able to eat from karbanos. So, for example, a zava, mitzara, a yoledes has to not just go to the mikveh and then be able to eat from the karbanos. They need to go to the mikveh and then bring a karban in the Beis Hamikdash. And at that point in time, they will be able to eat from the kachim. What's the problem? If a person did not bring their karban on by erev Pesach, then by that night they cannot eat from the karban Pesach. Says the Gemara, Shetovel Shenis, this person, the Mitzara, the Zava, the Yoledes, Shetovel Shenis is going to go to the mikveh again, meaning he went yesterday in order to bring his karban. He's going to go again today, and then be able to eat his karban Pesach that night. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Shmuel ben Oishel, continue the Brisa, sorry. Rabbi Shmuel ben Oishel, Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka, Rabbi Shmuel, the son of Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka, tells us, Av Mechusar Kippurim b'shayim Shoshana. This is not just true on erev Pesach. This is true throughout the year. That even though nothing is offered after the Tamid Shel Ben Harabayim, a Mechusar Kippurim is allowed to bring their karban all the way at the end of the day. To enable them to go to the mikveh and to be able to eat from the karbanos that night. Says the Gemara, this makes good sense for the Tanakama of the Brisa, that we have a principle in the Torah that when you have two mitzvahs essay, so one essay doesn't push up another essay, one positive mitzvah doesn't push up another positive mitzvah, but the Karban Pesach is a higher level of positive mitzvah because it is one of only two positive mitzvahs that by the non-doing of it will incur a punishment of kares. The other one, of course, being bris milah. So says the Gemara, it makes good sense of the Tanakama that the essay of Karban Pesach is going to override the essay of hashlama, of making sure, like we saw yesterday, that the word shlam that Abai and Rava had discussed means that all of the karbanos have to be completed with the karban tamid shel ben harabayim. So there's no isur kares in offering a karban after the karban hatamid, but it would be a bit of mitzvah essay. So it makes good sense to go to the Tanakama. Ela Rabbi Yishmael ben Oshel Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka, but according to Rabbi Yishmael, the son of Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka, my ume de high essay, me high essay. Why is it that in general, a regular karban on a regular day, we would push off the essay of hashlama, of finishing up all the karbanos with the karban tamid, in order for this person to be able to eat from the karban that evening? It's also mitzvah essay for them to offer that karban and to eat from that karban. But why would we push it off? Amar Ravina says, Amar Rav Chisda, hacha b'chatas ha'oif askinan. What we are talking about here is a chatas ha'oif, is a sin offering of a bird, she'ein lemizbeach eladama, where it doesn't actually go on the mizbeach. The karban itself doesn't go on the mizbeach, so you could still have hashlama. You could still have the completion of all of the karbanos offered on the mizbeach. No problem. Going to be offered on the mizbeach that but ends with karban tamid, and then comes the chatas ha'oif, where the only thing that goes in the mizbeach is the blood. There's no actual meat that goes in the mizbeach. Says the Gemara, Amar Papa says, I feel with him chatas behema. You could even say that it's a chatas behema, meaning which actually needs to be went to the mizbeach. How? Mala umelina b'rosh shel mizbeach. What do? You shech the karban, you do shvikas hadam, and then you put the meat on the mizbeach, but you don't burn it on the mizbeach yet. You put it over to the side, and you wait until the next morning in order to burn it on the mizbeach. Says the Gemara, V'ha ika asham. But what are you going to do with an asham? What are you going to be, meaning with behema? Perhaps you could do that. Says the Gemara, Bishlam and Papa. This makes good sense according to Papa. Hainu de malin, because you could leave it overnight. But according to Rav Chisda, what are you going to say about somebody that's Mechusar Kippurim, needs to have their karban brought in order to eat it that evening? Rabbi Yishmael, the son of Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka, would tell you that Mechusar Kippurim can also do it, but according to Rav Chisda, you can only bring the blood, and that doesn't work because you have with an asham, you don't have the option to bring a bird. With an asham, you can only bring a behema. So according to Rav Papa, no problem. The behema could be left there. That's good for whatever karbanos you need to bring a behema for. But there are certain certain people that are tamei that need to bring a behema that you cannot get around with just bringing chatas ha'oif, because an asham cannot be from an oif. It has to be a behema. Says the Gemara, so we say, Amri, they said, Shekariv Ashamai, that he has already brought the asham. He's already brought the asham, but he hasn't yet brought the chatas. So in certain cases, you need to have an asham and a chatas in order to get over your status of being mechusar kippurim. You need two karbanos. So in this case, Rav Chisda would tell us, no, you're 100% right. If he has only brought, if he hasn't brought his asham, he's not going to be able to be able to eat from the karbanos that evening. He would need to bring both. But in the case that he's already brought the asham, so he'd be able to bring a chatas from an oif. Says the Gemara, V'ha'ika ola, but sometimes you also have an ola, because a mitzora has a chatas, an asham, and an ola is certainly only going to be able to come from a behema. Says v'chitema ola ma'akva. Maybe you want to say according to Rav Chisda in Rabbi Yishmael, that an ola is not ma'akev, that the ola would not prevent you from removing your status of being mechusar kippurim. Maybe you would bring the ola, but even without bringing the ola, you can already eat from karbanos. Va'atanya, but we have a brisa, Rabbi Yishmael ben Hoshel, Rabbi Yochanan ben Broika Omer, of the same Tana that we are discussing. The same way that the chatas and the asham are going to hold him back from being able to eat from karbanos, the ola is also going to hold him back from eating from karbanos. And maybe you want to say, in the case that he already brought his ola. He brought the ola. Now what he has to bring is the asham and the chatas. He has to bring that. So, and then he brought the asham. The only thing left, according to Rav Chisda, would be the chatas, and that he could bring a chatas ha'oif from a bird, which the blood is the only thing that would need to go in the mizrach. Says the Gemara, "Mi karva ola say kadem chatas rishon." Could you ever have a situation where the ola is brought before the chatas? You have to have the chatas before the ola. V'atanya. We have a brisa that says, "V'kriv es asher lechatas rishona." He has to bring that which is for the chatas first. What does it mean? He has to bring that which is for the chatas first. What is the pasuk telling you? If that is to teach you that the chatas comes before the ola, the pasuk says, that the second one has to be brought as an ola kamishpat. The second one has to be the ola. Meaning the ola is always second. Ella, says the Gemara, Zeh b'na of lechol chatas. This is a paradigm. This is the general rule for all chatas. Shiyu kaidmes lechol olas, that you always have chatas coming before olas. Habayim imahem, that come with him. If you ever have a situation of needing both a chatas and an ola, then you would always bring the chatas first and then the ola. You cannot have a situation where you would already have brought the ola and then you would bring the chatas, which means that Rav Chisda is now in a pickle. Says the Gemara became alon, and we explained that afilu chatas ha'oif kademus le'olas behema, that even a chatas ha'oif has to come before an olas behema. That you bring a chata from a bird even before you bring the ola of behema. Says the Gemara, Amar Rava answering for Rav Chisda, explaining Rabbi Yishmael, the son of Rabbi Yochanan ben Broika. Amar Rava says, Sha'ani olas mitzara. The ola of a mitzara is different. It's unique. The Rahman, because the pasuk says, turning over the page, v'ha'Allah ha'kahenes ha'olah, that the kahen should bring up the ola she'ala kvar, means that he already brought it up. Meaning, in general, you always have to have a chatas coming before the ola, but the ola of the mitzara would be different, and that's the case that we are talking about. Says Rashi over here, but par chatas ksiv. We're talking about the par of a korban chatas, the cow, the bull of a chatas ksiv. And since the Torah says, the Torah should have said, it didn't say Ya'aleh, but it says he'elah. It doesn't say he should bring up, but he'elah, it was brought up. Mashma afilu hevi ola kadm chatas yichaper. It tells you that even if the ola came before the chatas, it would still work, and that would be the case. Be'ez Hashem Yisbarach, we will continue with the objection, the attack of Rav Shimon bar Abba tomorrow, and everybody should have a wonderful day.